taking notes from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
Well. How are you guys, everybody? Shout out to all of the people listening, especially at 12:40 in the morning on the East Coast. But the Celtics beat the Portland Trailblazers 145-117. Seamus, initial thoughts?
Well, I didn't guarantee this win. I was thinking about guaranteeing it throughout the afternoon, but tonight I kind of spoke on it before the game where I thought that if the Celtics did a couple of things tonight, just a couple of little things within their game, I thought they would be able to easily pull out tonight's win. And that's kind of what happened tonight. 145 points against the 28th rated defensive team, the defensive rating, they're 28th in defensive rating, that Portland Trailblazers are. And tonight, the Celtics, this was a win they had to grab, and they did exactly that. They fired on all cylinders for most of the night and never really looked back at any point during the game.
Definitely. That was probably the most fun I've had watching a Celtics game all season, it feels like. Like, that was just... The entire game was just super fun to watch. From the opening tip, the Celtics got on to a super, super hot start. I mean, they had a little bit of a lull in the second quarter, but once the third quarter hit and then the fourth quarter, they just turned it on from there. And before we get into any other coverage of the game, I'm going to shout out my boy Peyton Pritchard, the king of Portland tonight. His performance in the fourth quarter was probably some of the most fun basketball I've seen in a while, and the bench going crazy. It just made me so happy to watch, because I was about ready to jump out of my seat if Peyton Pritchard hit another three at the end of the game.
Yeah, and like you said, at the end of the game, that was probably the most fun part of the game, where we're just whooping their ass, and Peyton Pritchard is going Pro-Am Pritchard on us. And we received the best technical foul of all time, where our team is basically celebrating so hard. They're going onto the court, they're going out to midcourt. And at that point in the game was way over, so it didn't really matter whatsoever. And that was just this was the first good vibe game. Well, there's been a couple of good vibe moments throughout the season, but this was the first full game of good vibes around this team, and this team playing together and coming together to win a game. And tonight's game too, we went 12 deep tonight, I believe, or
I think we went the whole bench. Everyone that was like available to played tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bruno Fernando had a run there. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, he had an early run in the game, and then obviously late in garbage time. Well, Peyton Pritchard played 18 minutes tonight. He had 19 points. The homecoming for Pritchard was real. And also, we didn't mention this before the game, though, but Ime Udoka, Ben Sullivan, I believe,
Damon Stoudemire,
and
Damon
Stoudemire, and who am I missing? Aaron Miles. I might be missing one more person, too. All Portland guys coming home tonight. And that had to feel good for not only the coaching staff, but Enes Kanter, 15 rebounds tonight as well, to go along with nine points. He was huge tonight, especially in the first half.
He had a huge game.
Oh, and I said his name wrong. Enes Freedom.
I know. Come on. We
Exactly.
got to start saying his name right if we're gonna keep talking about him. Well, if he's gonna keep playing as well as he played tonight, we're going to continue to talk about him. But yeah, overall, I feel like that was an amazing game. Jason Tatum, man, like, oh man, these are the games that make me so happy that Jason Tatum is a part of the Celtics. Like, watching him get into his bag for most of the game was incredible to watch. Like, I was just, like, floored. I was just like, no way is he hitting all of these shots the way he's hitting them. Like, he had some of the shots that he showed was, like, he spun around at the top of the key, and then he faded away off of the wrong foot on Ben McLemore and hit a shot. Like, all the crazy threes he hit, and overall, it was a fun night to watch.
Yeah, Jason Tatum had it going on early tonight. We talked about this last week too, and he got to the free throw line 10 times tonight. I said that last week when he had 5 free throws against the Raptors, I believe. I said this guy can easily get to the line, 7, 8, 9 times a game. Tonight, 10 free throw attempts, 9 free throw makes, and he was super efficient from the field tonight. 4 of 6 from 3 and 9 of 17 from the field to go along with adding the 31 points. And he had his whole arsenal going tonight. He was aggressive for most of the game, and that step back three is really what got him in rhythm early on. And there was just nothing Blazers defenders could do against that three. He's snatching it back. He's going between the legs, and he's creating space for himself. And he's 6'9", 6'10" with a long wingspan. And once he creates that space, it's all about making the shot from there. And Tatum, as we've seen in the past, the shooting struggles, they weren't going to last. We've seen this man hit so many shots in the past, so many ridiculous shots in the past, and now tonight, this was the get right game for Tatum, and hopefully that continues Tuesday night against the Lakers when we all know he loves to perform at Staples Center.
Definitely. And they were talking about something on the Celtics NBC Sports Boston post game show a little bit. I was listening to it before we got on here. Abby Chin said something interesting. She's like, I don't know what it is about the Celtics and the West Coast, but I mean, Chris Forsberg said this too. Remember a few years ago when, Kyrie, we went to that game against the Warriors and we absolutely smacked them and it felt like the season was saved. And I don't know what it is about these West Coast trips that the Celtics find like so enjoyable. Also, we need to talk about the Headband Celtics. And I feel like that has to be like an entire season thing now. If we're gonna drop 145 points when everyone wears headbands.
It gave me the whole vibe of that 16-17 team. They came into Game 6 against the Wizards, and they all wore black because they were coming in for a funeral game, and they lost that game. They got it done in Game 7, so it was fine. But that all wearing the black headband, it was almost like, all right, that was like a showing of unity to a certain extent. I don't really know what the symbolism behind it was, but it was a showing of unity. Like, hey, we kind of coordinated this here, and that's what you like to see from teams like that. And it doesn't really mean anything towards their play, but it does mean something, I guess, with chemistry in the clubhouse that, hey, let's all come together and do this or do that. And it's a bonding thing too. And the Headband Celtics, yeah, let's keep it going. I want to see headbands every single night. Imagine we just become the headband team. I think we can make. Imagine you can make T-shirts off of that. We're gonna get a segment on ESPN about it. We go
Team Store is gonna sell a bunch of headbands, and headbands are gonna be worn all across the nation.
We're just gonna be the headband team.
We're gonna be the headband team.
Yeah. I see no wrong in that. Just keep going, Celtics. Keep it going with the headbands. We'll see where it goes. This is going to be great.
Definitely.
145 under him, so.
I mean, you can only if that's going to be the quota for wearing the headbands. I feel like we need to do it more often. But also, there is something else that's also good news. The Celtics are 2-1 in December. Look at that. We have a winning record, and we're 2 games over 500. That's
very big for this December run, and we have to keep it going. Again, Lakers on Tuesday. That's going to be a huge game, I believe. We don't want to, keep teetering around 500. And we could do this. We do this whole thing. It seems like we're kind of in that loop again, right? Hopefully, it doesn't turn into this. But great win against the Sixers. Not a bad loss against the Jazz, but a loss in Utah. And then now tonight we're coming in here and going, yes, the Celtics, they look like an awesome team. Like, this is the point where the team needs to capitalize now. Like, we're happy about this game. Keep it going.
I know.
2-1 in December is pretty big so far. So make it 3-1. Don't blow the 3-1 lead. Keep it going, Celtics. Keep it going.
I know. And I mean, I feel like sometimes I'm the pessimistic person on the show here where I always try to look at the negatives, but I don't know, for the first time all season, this Celtics is just making me all smiles. Like, even that game against the Hornets, I was like, okay, yeah, I was happy, but I wasn't, like, happy that we won that game. Like, this is a game where we just went in and we just kicked ass all night long. And they got me a little worried in the second quarter when they had some struggles, but I mean, this is just one of those games where it's just a good night to be a fan of the Celtics tonight. And Yeah, so I guess we can move on ahead to looking forward to our Lakers Celtics game. Now, LeBron is going to play in that Lakers game. He did get cleared for COVID, so he'll be active for that game. And so, what do you think the Celtics need to do to get a win against the Lakers next game?
Well, well, against the Lakers, number one, capitalizing off of turnovers is always huge against them. They turn the ball over a ton still, and tonight, the Celtics. I wasn't very impressed with them in transition at points tonight. I thought there were a little bit of there were a couple of moments where the team they weren't sprinting back. They were more jogging, and that's really when the Blazers saw their run during the second quarter was because of fast break opportunities and the Celtics just not getting back in time or certain not all five guys are getting back, and the Blazers have a 5-on-4 situation or 3-on-2 or 3-on-1, and you just have to prevent that during games by just sprinting the floor. And at times tonight, I know we give Robert Williams a lot of praise, but he's low-key the worst player in that regard. He's always jogging back and forth. I know he has health problems and whatnot with his legs. However, you have to sprint back. And Grant Williams, I want to give a shout-out to Grant Williams, though. If I were to rate, I don't want to pick on players because it can be, anyone at any time. But Robert Williams, he's one of the worst at sprinting back. However, one of the best, Grant Williams. Grant Williams is always sprinting the floor hard. Got to give some praise to Grant. That was a big thing that stood out from him to me tonight, and that's really something in his game that we kind of missed on or didn't talk about as much in the last couple of months because he's been so good everywhere else, but this man plays so hard. He sprints the floor, and I'm really liking his development with this team so far, and I can't wait to see where Grant Williams goes in the future with this team. But if he can become the leader in this ball club, hopefully they become better at sprinting back in transition, because that's what the Celtics need to do on Tuesday against the Lakers as well.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, if they can just build off of what they did tonight, and I mean, they can really build off the last two games. They're shooting over the last two games, and their offense has been absolutely incredible to watch. 130 points versus the Jazz. Granted, you let up 137, but that's just because the Jazz had an all-time amazing shooting night, hitting 27 threes. And then you come into Portland tonight, and you drop 145. That's your season high tonight. I don't know if it's 100% the season high. I can't remember. I think the opening night we might have had like 147 or something. But still, like the Celtics came out and they came out shooting, and it was so much fun to watch. And do you think that the Celtics moving forward are going to continue this hot streak of their shooting?
Hopefully. I mean, I don't think they're as bad of a shooting team as they've displayed thus far this season because 29th in three-point percentage. I mean, that's just ridiculous. We have guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Dennis Schroeder, Marcus Smart. For the narrative that exists around him, he's actually an above-average three-point shooter. Josh Richardson, his shot is very spotty, but he's not a terrible three-point shooter. And you have guys like Aaron Nesmith, too, off the bench, and Peyton Pritchard, but he hasn't been shooting well either this year. And I don't really expect these numbers to continue where we're ranked 29th in the league. I don't think we're a top shooting team in the league. I think that's a part of the team that is still somewhat missing, but I don't think we're a bad shooting team. So hopefully there is a run right now, and hopefully it happens in the month of December where this team is above average or just above where they've been, and they get up to, maybe that 15th, 14th, 13th spot in shooting and three-point percentage. And tonight, this was a pretty good start because tonight, I mean, last night, the Utah Jazz, they shoot 53% from the three-point line against us. We shoot 56.8% from the line tonight. We make 21 of 37 threes. We just shot them at a lower volume tonight, at a lower pace. But, I mean, that's ridiculous. 56, nearly 57% on threes tonight for the Celtics. Hopefully that trend continues, and hopefully in the month of December it carries on throughout the season if it does continue.
Definitely, and it kind of feels like the Celtics are hitting their stride at the right time. I mean, we've talked about this December gauntlet of the amount of really, really good teams the Celtics have to face. And I know we say this all the time after a big win or, a good blowout win that, oh, is this the time the Celtics have finally put it all together and it looks like they turned the corner? I don't know. This time it feels different. It feels like they might have finally found their offensive game. And that's going to be really important because we've already seen how well of a defensive team this team can be. They've been an amazing defensive team so far in this season, granted outside of the last game, but it's just one of those things where it's like it's finally feeling like maybe, just maybe they're going to go on a run soon.
Yeah, and you speak of a run. I mean, we're only 2 games out of the 3 seed. We're 3 games out of the 2 seed. A game and a half out of the 4 seed. A game out of the 5 seed and a half game back from the 6 seed right now. So, even though this is kind of something, sometimes I think we were overreacting at the beginning of the season, or people in general were overreacting about this team at the beginning of the season. There are things missing to the Celtics team, like I said, shooting and other aspects like, just, do the pieces fit together in terms of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But you look at this team, they're 2-5 start, they're 2-6 start, the bad start. It didn't really affect them to the greatest extent because you look at the whole league right now, teams that have both double-digit losses and double-digit wins. I mean, you have the Heat, Cavaliers, Celtics, Hornets, 76ers, Hawks, Knicks, Raptors, Pacers. Well, and then, you get down to the bad teams where they only have singular wins. And then in the West, you have the Grizzlies, Clippers, Mavericks, Nuggets, Lakers, Timberwolves, and Trailblazers, all at 500 basically right now. And it's like, that's over half of the league. And the Celtics, if they can somehow, they have enough talent, they have enough depth, they can somehow find something within themselves to get a run going and find some consistency and find a rhythm with this team and come together as a team entirely with everyone healthy. And, that's still something that's developing. We haven't seen yet, but if they can find something over this next month or even January, it's not inconceivable to say that this team couldn't make a deep run in the playoffs potentially. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And as you said, the teams with the double-digit wins and losses, the Celtics have now officially moved into the 7th seed. So,
Yeah.
And we officially have 2 more wins than the Knicks. So,
Ooh,
bing bong for that.
bing bong.
So.
Great game for them against the Nuggets today. A little 99 points to what it was like 113, I think. The Nuggets.
Yeah, they kind of got smacked by the Nuggets, but
Jokic MSG game. Yeah.
I wonder what random player went off tonight for the Nuggets, because it seems like random bench players or just random players in general seem to go off against the Knicks at the Garden this year. Remember when Ricky Rubio dropped didn't he drop 40 in that game or something?
37. 37.
That's
I think
crazy.
the number was. And Jaylen Brown, obviously, the first game of the season, kicked it off with a nice 46 at the Garden. That was you look at opening night and how our team was perceived on opening night versus now. I think we're doing a lot better. When's our next Knicks game? I think it's in January. Or no, it's this month. It's next week, isn't it? It's at the end.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we play at home,
now, isn't it?
That's going to be a fun game. It's next week, I think, or 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. Yeah. I'm very excited for that game because I don't think the Knicks are very good right now at all, and we are kind of trending more in the right direction. Even though we have a 500 record right now, you've been playing pretty good ball. I think the Celtics are trending in the right direction overall. I think it's just we had a bad start. We kind of teeter. We should win some of these games, like that Spurs game. I mean, come on, we should win that. There's multiple games that we should be able to pull out, but we're pulling out more games right now, and I'm excited for this Knicks game. I am.
Definitely. Me too.
Me too.
Also looking, I don't know if you want to go that far. You don't want to tarnish your 6-2 record here. So
no, I was supposed to be 7-2. I should have guaranteed this damn win. I was like, there's no Lillard. There's no Lillard. Let's see. All
right. Also, looking at that Knicks Nuggets game today, Nikola Jokic had 32 and 11. That's kind of nuts. But Zeke Naji, Nnaji, I hope that's how you say his name. But he dropped 21 and 8 off the bench. So also shout out to Zeke Naji because I just pulled his rookie card out of a out of a pack today, so that's pretty interesting. Shout out to him. Shout out to the Nuggets for beating the Knicks. So, let's see. Do you want to get into some over-unders?
Of course, of course. I know I totally missed on one tonight, and it was the bench points.
All right, let's see here. So we both had the same answers for the over-unders. So whatever happens, we win or lose together here. So the first one was Grant Williams over-under.
Hold up, we got this. Did we see it?
December 18th, 2021. Celtics beat the Knicks. Bing bong. All right.
Guaranteed.
All right. You heard it here first.
Mark
you guys have to clip that. Clip that. Spread it across the league here. Seamus officially says the Celtics beat the Knicks at home December 18th. So yes. Back to the over-unders here.
At the real Garden.
At the real Garden. Our first over-under was Grant Williams over-under 11.5 points. Sadly, he dropped 10, so we both lose that one. Second over-under here.
Oh, he scored
Robert Williams. Robert Williams over-under 8.5 rebounds. He had 3 rebounds. We kind of both shit the bed on that one too. And finally, bench points.
Whoa, wait. I took the over on that one? Oh, yeah, because there was no Al Horford, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, so we both 0 for 2 now. And then the bench points, we did over under 25, and we both took the under, and the bench ended up scoring 51. So rough over under night for us today.
Well,
we'll have to bounce back.
Look at the scoring numbers off the bench individually tonight. Freedom had 9. Aaron Nesmith randomly pulled 11 out. I mean, he played 22 minutes. Josh Richardson only had 5, which is like the main guy. We were sitting here talking like, okay, well, Josh Richardson could have 18, and that makes up, 18 of the 25. And then 19 points from Peyton Pritchard. I mean, he nearly ruined it himself. That was so unprecedented. And obviously, too, Bruno Fernando and Juancho combining for 7 points. How was Juancho at minus 15 tonight? I just don't understand. Those guys combining for 7 points. I mean, that was unprecedented. But, yeah, Juancho, Pritchard, Fernando, Nesmith all getting in on the action. Freedom, Richardson, everyone. But, yeah, anyway. And Parker.
Yeah. Shout out to Jabari Parker for his 3 minutes tonight. Although he did get cooked on defense one time. But that is still +6 for him. So, shout out to Jabari Parker. Shout out to the whole bench tonight. And, I mean, we talked about this in the pregame show. We were talking about next man up mentality. I mean, 51 points from your bench is about as next up mentality as you're going to get.
I mean, look, without the bench, we're what? We're at what? One.
I think we lose this game.
We're 90. We have 94
we still win this
points. 94 points.
We lose this game if the bench doesn't step up tonight. So, Shout out to everyone on the bench tonight: Enes Freedom, Josh Richardson, Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who actually hit a really clutch 3 in the game. The one shot that he took was actually kind of clutch. Bruno Fernando, and Jabari. Shout out to you guys, and shout out to the Celtics for ruining our over-unders tonight. We're gonna bounce back against the Lakers game. We're gonna have 4. We're gonna have a better chance to come back in that one.
This is the cancellation. See, this always happens in the world of betting. I was 4-0 last night, and then 24 hours later, just 0-3 doesn't even matter. Basically, just 4-3, you're at 500 essentially, and what can you do? That's the world of betting on sports.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we don't actually bet any money on this. Although we can tell you the story as to why we do the over-unders in the first place. So if you guys don't know, our co-host Rob, he's a pretty active bettor, I would say. And on opening night, he bet that the Celtics were going to beat the Knicks, and then I think he made another bet that night that it was something like the Celtics were going to beat the Knicks in overtime, one of those two things. But he ended up losing about $200 that night, and he was kind of stuck eating ramen for the week. So in honor of that, we decided to start doing the over unders for every single pre and post game show. Which I mean, I personally had a lot of fun doing them. I think it's a lot of fun doing these over unders every night. But yeah, so that's the origin story of our over unders here.
I'll take the victory. I said in the group chat earlier, I was like, why are the Celtics not favored tonight? Why plus 105 money line? The Blazers.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
Well, the Blazers. Here's the thing about tonight's game. You saw it in the third quarter mainly, and the fourth quarter was really just a wash due to it. Once CJ McCollum turned off, once he was not getting going, like once he was more taken out of the game, there wasn't anyone else that could go out there and get a bucket for them. And that's really the problem with some of these star player injuries with these teams is most of these teams need a star to go out there and get a bucket at times during their times of just having a dry spell on offense. And the Celtics, that's what's so great about the Celtics in a sense. Like they're a 500 team right now, hovering around it at least. However, the talent on the roster is not a 500 talent roster because you look at it, Jaylen Brown goes out. Oh, well, look, Dennis Schroeder's getting us 31, and of course Jason Tatum, our arguably top star player, he gets us 31 a night. And we have those bucket getters that other teams like the Blazers, they only have two basically right now, and you can throw Norman Powell into that situation as well. But he's not a star player. He's not a star level player. But these teams, they miss their star players when they go out. And the Celtics, they do have that depth this year. And I talked about it before the game. They do have that depth this year that can go out there and get them a bucket. And that's really what we saw from the Blazers tonight as their lack of that next star player. They just didn't. They couldn't get a bucket in that third quarter.
Definitely. Also, there was one more thing I want to talk about the Trailblazers. There's like half of the guys on the Trailblazers I didn't even know were still in the league. Like, I didn't even know Dennis Smith Jr. was still in the league, and he dropped 21 tonight. But at the same time, like, I had no idea he played for the Trailblazers. Like, that was kind of crazy to me.
That kind of felt like the Trey Burke performance back in November of 2018, where he just lit us up for 29 at the Garden. Thankfully, though, Dennis Smith did not cause us to lose like Trey Burke did against the Knicks a couple of years ago. However, Dennis Smith Jr., I was thinking a couple of months ago, or a couple of weeks ago, rather, that, man, because, I was listening to J. Cole, and, he mentions Dennis Smith in his songs, in a couple of his songs, and I was just thinking, man, this guy, he went from being almost Rookie of the Year with the Mavs to being just not even in the rotation with the Knicks to, you're playing pointless minutes with the Pistons, and now he's just destroying us tonight. He's now destroying us. He destroyed us tonight out there, and he was one of the guys in transition who killed us on the fast break. And that's just the life of sports sometimes. A couple of months ago, I'm thinking this guy, he's pretty much lost in the NBA. Like, his career is dwindled, his light is dwindling, and then we have a night like tonight where it looks like, wow, this guy could be looks like a legit NBA player. And that's what's great about sports sometimes is the peak that you can reach in a small period of time.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking because, like, I mean, we live on the East. Well, I live on the East Coast. You live in the Midwest, technically. So, I mean, we're both not really completely versed in, the West Coast or even the North Pacific West of Portland. So, there was some of the other guys on the roster that I didn't know played there. I didn't know Ben McLemore was on the Trailblazers. I didn't know Larry Nance Jr. was on the Trailblazers. I didn't know Cody Zeller was on the Trailblazers. I didn't know Tony Snell was on the Trailblazers. Like, I saw all these guys go out there. I'm like, damn, like, I didn't know all these guys played for the Trailblazers. You'd think they'd be a better team with all of these guys. But
Ben McLemore, though, I knew he was on the Blazers because St. Louis guy, hometown.
Oh, yeah.
Hometown dude. I know we're not from the same area. We live completely the east side of the river, and the west side, completely different. North, south, completely different. But still, home area guy, Ben McLemore. But yeah, the Blazers certainly have a lot of random names on their roster. That's what was kind of, weird about this summer for them is they didn't really upgrade their roster that much this summer. They almost downgraded and got a lot of these random names, but then you still have your star players there, and it evidently looks like they're trying to build something semi-competitive around them. But that's what I mentioned before the game. They're just going to try to sell tickets. Damian Lillard, deep down, he wants to compete for a title. He wants to.
For sure.
This Blazers
There's no
team
way.
is not a title team. I mean, 28th in defensive rating, and we saw it tonight. We dropped 145 on their head. And, a team like this is not a finals team. The Blazers are not a finals team. They're going to be a playoff team, probably a play-in team, one of the two. But, I mean, random assortment of guys, like you said, Tony Snell, Cody Zeller, Ben McLemore, who, hometown guy that I like. But all those guys, they're not championship level players. And that's at the end of the day. That's what the Blazers are facing right now. And this situation is just so weird in Portland, or it's going to get weird in Portland because this is not sustainable for the future.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I mean, maybe since they fired their owner, maybe then they'll make a switch and finally tank, because they were talking about it like they got a lot of guys. They could get a lot of good pieces back for. Like, you could trade Yusuf Nurkic for, you could probably get a pick out of him. You can trade CJ McCollum for something solid. Granted, you can obviously trade Damian Lillard, and that's going to give you the most assets back. But, they got a lot of tradable guys and a lot of guys that they could potentially get some good assets for. But if the season ended today, the Trailblazers would be in the play-in. They'd be the 10 seed, and they'd have to face the Nuggets. So I feel like it's obvious that they would have gotten bounced out of the play-in just doing that. So.
Yeah, and also with this team, Robert Covington, they could maybe possibly convince a team that he's worth something. I think Robert Covington, he might be one of the most overrated role players in the NBA. Like, he is an okay role player, but remember a couple of years ago when the trade deadline was centered around Robert Covington, or on Robert Covington, basically, and it was like, well,
that was a weird time.
A 3-and-D player. He's putting up some numbers with a bad Timberwolves team and got traded to the Rockets. Blazers signed him to a contract, and I just look at him now and I go, I think I would rather have Josh Richardson over this man. I think I'm pretty keen on that. Robert Covington, it's almost like he's an NFL running back, very replaceable player. I just think no hate to Robert Covington. I'm sure he's a great guy, but as a basketball player, kind of overrated, just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but what are you gonna do? But you can definitely convince a team, convince the Sacramento Kings or something. Because don't look now, but the Kings are 9-14. They're in the 11th seed. They're right behind the Trailblazers. They're coming. So I don't know.
They're not coming, bro. I think right now, no way. No. Well, the only thing that I would say with that team, they would have to make some kind of trade deadline swindle move to do something, because otherwise, I think the 10 teams in both conferences are set right now. If you look at it, let's mark the date down. So it's December 4th. I think the 10 teams right now on December 4th or December 5th, I guess now, will be in each conference will be the top 10 teams at the beginning or later at the end of the season. Look at the 10 teams down.
The Knicks aren't going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, okay, first of all, let's go through the Western Conference real quick. Warriors, Suns, Jazz, all making the playoffs. Grizzlies, they're all the way up to the 4th seed. They made the playoffs last year. I feel comfortable about them making the playoffs. The Clippers, the Mavericks with Luka, Nuggets, they should make the playoffs. The Lakers, they were one of the favorites, although they're the 8th seed. The Timberwolves and the Blazers. I personally like the Timberwolves and the Blazers way more than the Sacramento Kings. Way more. I like the Kings pieces, but I don't think they fit together whatsoever, and they just have a weird situation going on. You just fired your head coach, 20 games into the season? Why would you do that?
Let's be fair, though. Luke Walton is a terrible coach.
Oh, well, I know, but why are you firing him 20 games into the season? That's just a dysfunctional franchise move right there. And now you have Alvin Gentry, who couldn't get the most out of the Pelicans, but who even knows what happened with that situation. And then after that, I think the only team that you could realistically say out of the bottom five West teams, so the bottom five West teams, the Kings, the Spurs, the Pelicans, the Rockets, and the Thunder in that order. I think the only team out of those five teams, I think the Pelicans, the Rockets, the Thunder, they're dead in the water. The Spurs could probably make a run. I think they're we saw them play a week ago. They have the ability to make some type of run. They'd have to jump either the Blazers or the Timberwolves. But then again, like I like the Timberwolves this year. I do. I think they're a top defensive team this year. Towns is still an All NBA level player. Anthony Edwards is taking a step, and D'Angelo Russell is finally healthy with them as well. And moving on to the East too, the Nets, the Bulls, the Bucks, top three seeds. I think those could be your top three seeds at the end of the season. They're all making the playoffs. The Wizards, they've fallen off a little bit. I think they'll still make the playoffs, though, because they have a lot of depth. The Heat should make the playoffs, another depth team as well, another deep team as well. This is the team at 6 right here that everyone expects to fall, but they look pretty damn good with Evan Mobley, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then the Celtics, I think we'll make the play-in team, or the play-in tournament as a team. I think we're at least to that level. The Hornets, who literally just dropped. They were all the way up at the 4 seed just a couple of days ago. And then the Sixers, are you going to get Ben? Are you going to get something out of Ben Simmons? Are you not? That makes a difference. And then the Hawks, who another deep team. They're not playing too impressively well right now. However, well, maybe they are. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games, but they're the 10 seed. So after that, Knicks, Raptors, Pacers, Magic, Pistons, sayonara, see ya, goodbye. The Pacers. I don't feel as if the Pacers have enough talent roster-wise, and they don't fit together. They just don't fit together whatsoever. The Raptors, another talent-drained team, I would say. And then the Knicks.
Bing bong.
Kimba's not in the rotation. Evan Fournier is not an $18 million a year player, and Celtics, that's why they didn't pay him. They know they this year, the Celtics, they're one of the top defensive teams in the league. Evan Fournier, there were moments last year where, that man is definitely not making your defense any better. But the Knicks, I don't see the Knicks jumping the Hawks, Sixers, Hornets, Celtics at all. And after that, it becomes only the Cavaliers. Do you see them jumping the Cavaliers and Evan Mobley? I don't think so, unless an injury happens there. So after that long spiel, just going through both conferences, I think the top 10 teams are set for both conferences already.
Yeah, definitely. Especially going back to the Western Conference. I've wanted the the Timberwolves to succeed for the last 5-6 years since Jimmy Butler left. I've wanted the Trailblazers to succeed because I really like Karl Anthony Towns. He's technically a generational talent in my opinion. How many 7-footers do you know that can handle like a guard? He can pull up from 3 and he hits the 3 consistently. He has a mid-range, he has the post game, and I remember he was labeled as soft for a while, but he's having a really, really good season this year. Anthony Edwards, I think he's the real deal. I love Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards he's a lot of fun to watch. He's gonna be running the league eventually. Give him some time, he's going to. And then they still have D'Lo. D'Lo is D'Lo. And they got some nice pieces, so I feel like the Timberwolves, if they can make a play-in tournament, they would be playing the Lakers right now. Could you imagine the Timberwolves knocking off the Lakers in the play-in tournament? That would be amazing.
A dream. That would be a dream. And basically, any team knocking off the Lakers is a dream. Like last year, that's why I was thoroughly enjoying the Phoenix Suns run, both against the Lakers and then afterwards, knowing that they beat the Lakers. I remember Game 6. We were out of the playoffs, I believe, at that moment, or just about to exit the playoffs last year in 5 games against the Nets. And that Game 6, the Suns beat the Lakers, where they basically were just whooping them for most of the game. And it was one of those things where it's like, whoa, the Lakers cut it to 14. It was it was one of those games like, oh, the Lakers are coming back, but they're down 14. It's like that Game 6 was literally one of the happiest moments of the season last year. It had nothing to do with the Celtics whatsoever. So shout out Phoenix Suns. And it's always nice when the Lakers get knocked out. And it's good to talk about this too, because we had the Lakers on Tuesday night. And We beat them Tuesday night. Get the brooms out. Get the brooms out. Sweeping the Lakers in a matter of, what, 3 weeks? That's going to feel good.
Definitely. Also, quick shout out to the Houston Rockets, who are on a 15-game losing streak. They're on a 5-game winning streak. So
Hey.
shout out to the Houston Rockets, who we completely demolished a couple times this season. I think we were actually their first loss in that losing streak, and we were their last loss in that winning streak. So that's pretty interesting.
You are correct. So the Celtics were the cap and the start, because they won against the Bulls. They won over the Hornets, Thunder twice, and the Magic. So two impressive wins in there. The other three, not so impressive, but hey, 5-game winning streak is a 5-game winning streak. I'm sure Rockets fans they have the Pelicans up next, and then the Nets and the Bucks. So wow, what a stretch here. Thunder, Magic, Pelicans, Nets, Bucks.
And then Grizzlies, Hawks, Cavaliers, Knicks.
How do we get to the Rockets schedule? Hold up. We're on Celtics postgame.
We are on Celtics postgame. Now, we have been going on for about 42 minutes. It's 1:21 Eastern Standard Time in Massachusetts. Do you feel like you want to wrap it up here with the Celtics tonight before we start rambling on about how the Pelicans are going to be a dynasty in the next 10 years? Or
well, they're not going to be, and we talked about that the other day, actually, and I think the Pelicans are in one of the worst situations in the entire NBA. Just looking at number one, their front office situation and the inevitability of David Griffin's firing, the fact that Zion stress fracture in his foot. He's over 300 pounds. He's a big dude who jumps out of the Raptors. Like, is he going to be okay when he comes back? I don't know if Ingram is a top flight NBA talent star. I think he's a great scorer. Then you look at the rest of the roster, you have nothing. You have a lot of young guys and a lot of bad bets. I don't really see, this team went from being one of the best situational teams in the entire NBA to one of the worst, and I don't know how we got to the Pelicans, but
let's finish up here. Let's finish up here on the Celtics. Any final thoughts from tonight's game moving forward to this December Gauntlet, or what do we got?
I can't wait until we face the Pelicans. First of all, after tonight's game, if we face the Pelicans tomorrow night, we would whoop at them. Tonight's game, walking away from it, this is a night. I think everybody with this team should probably right now take, number one, a long-term look at it and go, okay, well, here's how we progress throughout the season, but take it day by day, right? Take it day by day. Take the wins with the losses, and tonight was a good win, and a good win that you could feel good about, and a win that really canceled out last night's loss, I feel, because last night we got beat by a really good team, but we played really well outside of it. It just really took a massive shooting performance from Utah to beat us. But tonight you come back, you whoop a team that you should whoop tonight in the Blazers with no Damian Lillard. And, like I said, coming into this game, I don't know how much you can judge off this matchup, but the Celtics took care of business in the areas they should have taken care of business in tonight. And I feel good about it tonight and moving forward. Now you have a 2-day break. Like I said, good energy over this 2-day break. And now you have the Lakers coming up on Tuesday. And every time we face the Lakers, that's a huge game. So the Celtics, now they're ready for that game, going in with some momentum.
Definitely. I think my final takeaway tonight was I'm just so happy to see the team themselves just coming together and having fun. It's been a while since we've seen a team have fun on the bench. You had guys falling over each other. You had Dennis Schroeder that had to get resuscitated on the ground. Josh Richardson got trampled when Peyton Pritchard hit those threes. It was just so much fun to watch this team come together and collectively get a technical foul for just having fun. And that's what it is in all sports, really. When you're winning, it tends to get you guys in a good mood. And, the more, I want the Celtics to, they saw how much fun they were having when they were beating up on the Portland Trailblazers. And I want to see them continue the momentum they've had over the last few games, and I'm hoping that December can be a big month for them. So that is it for this one. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Make sure you guys follow the Celtics Talk Weekly on Instagram, on Twitter. Shout out to David. He does an amazing job on our Twitter, by the way. So if you guys haven't followed us on Twitter yet, you guys definitely should. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any social media. We're on it. It's going to be the Celtics Talk Weekly. So for my best Rob impression, that's Seamus. I'm Ian. Shout out to Rob and Justin. And go Celtics.